Way back in 2005, I was invited to my first high school party. All I'd wanted to do since I turned 16 years old was to experience alcohol, friends, and stupidity all in the same place. And after a long, boring year, I was finally able to do so. I arrived at the party with Paul at 8 p.m. and immediately we got to drinking. We danced, laughed, and avoided vomiting, but after being there for a few hours or so, we began to get bored and realized that we hadn't been missing much at all over that past year. We finished the last of our drinks and headed towards the front door. However, just as we were leaving, I heard somebody shout my name from the corner of the room. I turned around to see Tom standing there, swaying from side to side and happily slurring his words. I decided to stay a little longer. After talking for a while, I felt as if I'd known Tom my whole life. He was only a year older than Alex, but he seemed much more mature. He was very open about everything that had happened and didn't seem to mind talking about it. He told me that his foster family were not the nicest of people and never seemed to care about anything he did. They made him feel like an outcast and treated him like a stranger rather than a son. He told me that he hadn't heard from his mother since she disappeared and doesn't know whether she's dead or alive. He even mentioned that he was failing school, but he just didn't care anymore. His life was slowly falling apart. When the party was over, I told Tom that he can sleep at my house so he didn't have to make his way to the home he hates so much. I set the futon for him and watched as he collapsed into a drunken slumber. When I woke up the next morning, Tom was already awake and holding something in his hands that I hadn't seen in over 2 years. "Where did you find this?" he said. "I haven't seen that in a long time. Forgot I still had it." "Yeah, okay, but where did you find it?" He spoke urgently. "I found it a couple of years ago. It was floating down a stream in Oakshale and I managed to fish it out of the water." "Why?" "This is my mom's jewelry box. That photo was taken on my 7th birthday, the day my dad left." "Are you being serious? Did you find this box before my mom left me?" "I did, actually. We got home a week later and Alex told me that your mom was gone." "This is so fucked up. Look at this drawing. This is me and my foster family, I'm sure of it. Even the house looks the same." At this point, neither of us knew what to think. This all seemed impossible. I pointed to the man drawn hidden into the background and watched as Tom's face lost all color. I had no choice but to ask him about the man. I told him everything that Alex and I had been a part of when I was 12. About Alex seeing him, but me being spared. I mentioned to him about the scratching and the strange conversation with Alex in Paul's grandparents' house. He listened to what I had to say, and it seemed to give him comfort. Maybe knowing that he wasn't the only one to experience the things he had made him feel a little better. After a long silence, Tom began to speak. "When I was younger, I would see him all the time. He would come to my window and find me at school, watch me as I tried to sleep. He was everywhere. As I'd gotten older, I've been seeing him less and less, but I still do see him. He usually appears at night, a tall, straggly-looking old man. His eyes are the thing that I remember most, pure black, with the most intimate glow behind them that almost seems relaxing. Yet, you're full of sheer terror. It's strange." Before I could say anything to Tom, he picked up the photograph from the box and showed me something that was written on the back of it. "Follow the stream to 66. I had never noticed that written on the photograph before. Tom asked me if I would take him back to where I found the jewelry box in Oakshale. The way I saw it, I had no other choice other than to say yes. We set off walking to the stream with the hope of finding something, anything to do with Tom's mother, but I don't think either of us really knew what to expect. We had been walking for around a half an hour when Tom stopped and pointed to a sign in the bushes for a shortcut to Oakshale. Upon seeing the sign, I was filled with a sense of fear that I'd never felt before. I really didn't want to take that shortcut. I told Tom that I had a strange feeling, almost a déjà vu or some extremely vivid dream, but he told me not to worry. As we were nearing the sign, I noticed a white spotted bow on the floor. It was playing out exactly as I had seen it. I made my way back to the main road and refused to go anywhere near the trees by the sign. I don't like to think of what might have happened in those woods. Eventually, we arrived at Oakshale and began to follow the stream. As we neared an old wooden bridge, Tom pointed to a small house on the opposite side from us. We headed towards the front door, but there didn't seem to be a number or anything. "This must be 66, Tom said quietly. We made our way along the front path and knocked on the door. To this day, I still find it difficult to explain what happened when that door opened. Tom's mom answered the door and stared at the both of us. "Can I help you?" "Mom?" "I'm sorry, I think you're mistaken." I stood silently as Tom exchanged words with the woman who was once his mother. "Mom, it's me, Tom. Are you okay? What happened to you?" "I am not your mother. I don't have any children, so will you stop saying otherwise?" At this moment, a man I had never seen before approached the door and chimed in on the conversation. "What's going on here? What do you kids want?" Dad, it's me! Where have you been? Where has Mom been? I don't understand." We must have stood there, shocked and confused, for 20 minutes before Tom's dad ended the conversation. "Look, we couldn't take it anymore. It's your turn to deal with it now. We like it here, and I think we're safe. So, you should never come back, okay?" The door slammed shut, and Tom began to cry. We left that house and made our way home in silence. As we were heading back through the trees to reach the main road, I turned around to look at the house one last time. Standing on the bridge, as clear as day, and staring right at me was a tall, black-eyed man pointing at the stream. I tensed up, feeling sick and dizzy, but I didn't want to mention what I'd seen to Tom. That was the first time I'd seen my worst fear. I wish I could say it was the last. A month or so after going back to Oakshale, I was given a school report to do on local history. I had began doing research, working my way through the years, and was going through hundreds of old newspapers. I stumbled across a paper that was dated August 17th, 1958. The main headline was detailing the death of a young boy who had drowned near his family home. A headline from a paper dated May 8th, 1960 was another young boy who had drowned while playing near his local brook. Over the next 6 years, 5 more child deaths graced the front page with local newspapers. Then, in the winter of '66, the killer was caught. On November 12, 1966, the front page headline boasted the quote, "It's the only thing I'm good at." Solomon Wallace had killed 7 children over the course of 8 years and had finally been brought to justice. His final victim was 7-year-old Kimberly Matthews. She was lured away from her back garden where she was playing and drowned in the brook running along the back of her house on Kershaw Street, the same street that I live on. Her body was found nearby after an elderly woman noticed the white spotted bow she had often worn, tangled up in the weeds. During the final court hearing of the brutal killing spree, a disgruntled father of one of the children shot Solomon Wallace 3 times in the back. After being taken to the hospital and placed in the intensive care unit, his nurse returned to his room only to find that it was empty. After weeks of intense searching, Solomon Wallace was never found. Most people believe that he died from the gunshot wounds. Some believe that he got away with it scot-free. However, some people like me are still unsure to this very day. Things gradually got worse after our visit to that house. The occurrences became more common and sleepless nights were a part of our lives. But it wasn't until meeting Michael 3 years later that things would become worse than ever.